Here we go. Jonathan Feinberg coming to you again from sunny Aspen, Colorado. And I'm really, really honored and privileged today to be talking to two really good friends of mine whom I've known forever. Friends Kenny and Robin Smith. They own two wonderful stores in town. And I hold a special place in my heart for all of my friends on the front lines of commerce and retail and restaurant. It's a really, really hard business. I've been in retail before, and I know how hard it is. So getting to talk to people like this and hear their stories is really, really meaningful to me. Kenny and I shared the same space a long, long time ago, and that's, I guess, how we got to know each other. Before I was a real estate broker, I was in retail and I was an outfitter like Kenny, and I know that daily grind and what it feels like. But without further ado, tell me, Kenny, and tell me, Robin, how you guys got here, what your personal stories are, and then we'll start talking about your incredible stores.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. Well, one thing I'd love to say initially is it's fun to have a history that goes back to the fly fishing days. That connection with you is super cool. We had little small business outfitting and retail businesses at that sort of the early days of something that we just had such passion about, which was fly fishing, and that was really fun to be a part of that, as it was really kind of an up and coming thing. And I'm sure I'm sure with you still a fly fishing connection with a lot of people in this town. And even though I'm not on the river every day, it's always fun when and I'm sure you hear the same question, hey, what's working out there right now, or whatever. I love the fact that that's part of our heritage here.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
tell us about when you got here, where you came from, in both of your stories.
Go ahead, Robin.
I moved here at the end of '98. I grew up in El Paso, Texas, more or less, and sort of knocked around, did a few different things. I graduated from SMU, and then I went into pharmaceutical sales. I dabbled as a radio DJ through college and right after college. And then it was interesting. I ended up being on cruise ships, and that's how I sort of dipped my toe in the jewelry business. I worked for a media and promotions company, and most of my clients were jewelers in the islands. So that's really how I got the bug to be in luxury retail. And so I came here in '98 working for another outfit that was here. And then Kenny and I met right away, more or less, and started Meridian in 2003.
So tell me how that kind of went down. Was there a vision for Meridian, or did that just kind of transpire as the natural course of progression?
The store that I came here to work for, which was called Hyde Park, had decided to move to Phoenix. They got a great offer, and I thought, oh yeah, this is like, do I start all over again at the bottom of the totem pole I was, managing at the time? And so I had a vision of what could be done differently to make it work in Aspen. And so Kenny and I worked together. I put a business plan together, and we were able to find some great silent partners at the time and get sweat equity. And it was really about finding and selling things that were unusual. I mean, you can't, if you're getting something that's from every city USA and bringing it to Aspen, like, that's exciting. It's not. You have to be at the forefront or the cutting edge of what's new and what's out there. And so that was sort of my goal, was to have, wonderful traditional, watches, but to have more cutting edge jewelry brands and new interesting jewelers. And so that's what we ended up doing. And luckily it's worked.
What struck me when you described that was you had some ideas about how to do it differently. Is that what you mean by bringing in some more unique and something different that would cater to? We have an ultra sophisticated guest base, obviously, but tell me a little bit more about what you mean by doing things differently.
I mean, I think if you go into any mall jewelry store or jewelry store throughout the country, there's probably 6 or 7 brands that every single one of them has. And so I wanted to avoid carrying something that you could get absolutely everywhere in the country. I wanted, I guess, for lack of a better word, small batch production. I wanted companies that were smaller, that were new and vibrant and energetic, very creative, and at the fore of different and unusual designs that hadn't been seen before. And so really it was about bringing in new artists and new energy that you couldn't find everywhere in the country. And to date, most of my brands you can't find many places in the country. So that has really helped our business.
That makes sense. Being and coming from a retail environment, I know exactly what you mean about how it's crucial to have new and different things for people. If they see the same stuff over and over and over again, why not just buy it in Houston or LA or Austin or wherever they came from? I totally understand that. When you guys first started out, did you have any challenges or hiccups along the way, or was it pretty much smooth sailing?
Well, I mean, I don't know anyone that has a small business of any type that doesn't have challenges, hiccups, catastrophes, all those things. You know, it's always a challenge. I think, you know, over 20, we're in our first year of operation of Meridian right now.
That's something.
And I think that's a testament to doing more things right than wrong and learning along the way. You know, it is a challenge. First of all, this town when we started out was very seasonal. It still is seasonal, as you know, but not to the degree it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago when we had our fly fishing businesses. You know, you have to operate a little differently. You have to be able to adapt and function based on that ebb and flow of tourism. And, you know, Aspen is a tourist town. It's what built this town, and adaptability to that seasonality has always been important. One thing that we did differently, though, from the very beginning is we never put a sign in the window saying, see you in June or whatever when it was an off season. We decided that we would always be open. We would always have a presence. We would always be a place that if people were in town during a shoulder season, you know, they could come in and say hello. And, you know, in our business, a few sales during the off season can really certainly help sustain through that time period. Whereas if you're a t-shirt shop or something else, you know, it's hard to always, that's a challenge that we had to overcome. And we decided to do it by just always being present, always being open.
Well, that's a perfect segue into one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about. And when I first got into retail, we had a store in Snowmass, and then we moved to Aspen and opened a second store. And that was when the Little Nell was built. And Aspen, like you said, it was sleepy in the summertime. There wasn't hardly anything going on, even in July and August. I can remember as a kid hitchhiking I lived in Snowmass, and as a kid hitchhiking from Snowmass to Aspen as a teenager, sometimes in July, I'd be out there on Highway 82, and I'd see one car in 45 minutes during peak times. Aspen was a lot different back then. It was a little bit of a sleepy ski town, and skiing was the industry that really drove our economy, and summer was just kind of the time of year where everybody tried to figure out how to make ends meet. So I completely understand what you're talking about. I kind of was in that space early on, and I saw Aspen change, or I don't like to use the word change, I like to use the word evolve a little bit better. It describes more of a positive landscape than Aspen changed. A lot of locals are saying, yeah, things have changed so much. Well, they've evolved, and one of the things that we've seen in no uncertain terms is that Aspen has become a luxury brand in and of itself, you know, and it didn't used to be that way. I kind of theorize that we first became a luxury brand with the building of the Little Nell, and, you know, that type of world-class amenity becoming available to people. Because before the Little Nell, we had the Hotel Jerome, you know, and then shortly after the Little Nell, we had what was it the Ritz-Carlton before St. Regis? I think.
Yes.
But those were luxury accommodations, and that was the first time we had luxury accommodations. Tell me how you guys see luxury evolving in Aspen and you know, being able to get a foothold in that market.
Well, you know, it certainly has evolved and changed, Jonathan. And I like the word evolved. I can't think of any place that's frozen in time. You know, things are going to change. Excuse me, I'm going to have to ask you to hold 1 second, Jonathan. Hi, sir. How you doing?
Getting back to Aspen as a luxury brand, do you guys remember a specific time when you gained a foothold and really started your luxury brand journey yourself?
Well, I mean, for us, it was certainly when we started Meridian, but, you know, I'd certainly been exposed to sort of the dynamic clientele prior to that, guiding fly fishing. And I worked, when I first moved to Aspen, my first job was at Bonnie's Restaurant up on Aspen Mountain. And then I worked in a restaurant in town called Renaissance Restaurant at night. And I would ski down off the mountain from one job going to the other. During those years, Aspen was evolving. The brands, the companies that were creating representation here in the commercial core were evolving and changing. and certainly, to some more well-known global names, brand names that you recognize in other places. They wanted to have exposure to the sort of evolving clientele that Aspen was experiencing, and those things have sort of moved forward together. The new clientele, the hotels, new hotels, more luxury hotels, and consequently more well-known luxury brands. But we started Meridian sort of before a lot of those luxury brands were actually establishing their presence here. So we were in the mix, I would say, right at the right time to be in the mix for what we do now at Meridian and here at the Longa Boutique.
We were fortunate, because we started with Rolex and Cartier, IWC, Longa shortly thereafter, and a lot of really beautiful high-end jewelry brands. So
yeah, and we represent those brands. We are partners with those brands in our market, and they're obviously well-known brands on their own.
I think that word partner is critical. Brand partnerships is really what drives the world. We're a brand-driven economy, and not having been to very many other places outside of Aspen, I'm kind of a homer. You guys have been everywhere. My 21-year-old son on the U.S. ski team has been to more countries than I can count. But when you talk about brands and luxury brands and brand awareness and partnerships, did you guys have any anticipation of what was going to happen with Aspen? Because it seems to me like you just absolutely hit it at the right time. Did you see it coming?
I didn't see it coming. No, I mean, it really did. It just, blew up. And I think that, you'd asked earlier about, dips and valleys in business. And, there was the recession around 2008, so things were a little dicey then. And then COVID was weird. But to see what happened to Aspen in the last 3 or 4 years, as far as it's just more full-time residents, more young people moving here, it's been really very exciting. And some people will complain about it, but I think it was great for town, and definitely a shot in the arm that I think we kind of needed.
Absolutely. Looking back, and I'd like to share an anecdote or two because I didn't see this coming at all. But I can remember when I was in my late 20s and being sunburnt and working 80 hours a week like you and I did, I took a lot of pride in promoting tourism in the summertime. People would choose this place over going to Jackson Hole or going to Livingston, Montana. I marketed the fishing, and it was not an easy mission at all. It was interesting and it was challenging, and I could remember being so burned out and tired by the end of August, and people, I can remember a specific conversation, this guy who'd been going to Jackson for the last 3 years, and he decided to come here mostly because he had the little Nell to take care of his wife while he fished for 5 days. And he asked me, he said, well, what can I do to get ready to come to Aspen? And I remember specifically, I was such a jackass. I was just really tired and cynical. But I told him, I said, you need to go to the nearest ATM and you need to withdraw as many $100 bills as you possibly can and proceed to the nearest restroom and just start flushing them down the toilet one at a time. And there was this pause and this silence on the other end of the line. I was like, oh my God, I just screwed up. And then he started laughing so hard. It took him a minute to get under control. And because he had heard about that, and he needed some humor to somehow talk himself into coming here instead of Jackson or wherever he'd been going anyway. But that was a unique time in my life where I realized that this was a different place, and it was going to cost people money to come here, but they were more than ready to spend it when they got here. Especially now, being a real estate broker, I'm seeing that in ways that are so magnified I can't possibly describe it. And that gets me into, I think what's a really, really important part of anybody's business. If they choose to live in a resort, you got to understand, you've got tourists that are coming here every day, and you depend on them, unfortunately, for a living. And it's up to us to take good care of it. I mean, that's our choice that we make when we decide to live in Aspen or Telluride or Crested Butte or Jackson, Wyoming, or wherever it is. And the people that are really good at it survive, and the people that aren't don't. And 21 years, you guys have 2 stores, you're charging hard and you're kicking ass and you're taking names. I want to hear what you guys, what the secret sauce is to customer service and how you've managed to maintain your business through the highs and the lows and coming through strong every day.
I mean, I think, first of all, we understand. The quick answer to your question is have integrity and be happy about what you're doing because you chose to do it. And be authentic as the people that you are, and that will resonate with the clients that you're doing business with. Just be. We love it here, and I think people feel and see that when they meet us and work with us. We can authentically share what we love about this place, and I really feel like that people love to, our clients love to hear that, and it's real. We choose to work in the tourist industry. We made that choice, and there's no better place to do it than here. We love the clientele that come to Aspen. You mentioned earlier the difference between summer and winter. I would like to touch on that a little bit. I first came here for skiing, but the reality is, we really fell in love with the year-round aspect of Aspen. I would make the case that there are way more things to do in the summertime than in the winter if you're outdoor oriented. There's 10 different things to choose to do on any given day, and that's certainly made summer become, for us in our business and probably for yours, as busy as the winter time. And we love to share skiing with our clients in the winter, snowshoeing with our clients in the winter, and take them fishing in the summer and try to help them get onto the right golf course that they want to get on, and recommend a great hike or bike ride. I mean, those are the kinds of, that's the kind of authentic communication that we do with everyone, because we're out there riding those trails, and I'm out there rowing the boat like you do. This is what we love to do, so it's fun and easy to share those things because it's what we love.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Aspen, I think for the bulk of people, is about creating memories from having great experiences and sharing those experiences with family, whether it's on a ski hill or on a river or on a hiking trail, wherever. I mean, you don't come to Aspen so that you could put your elbow on a bar and look at people. You don't come to Aspen just to eat. Aspen, it's a place, it's a sports crazed town, hiking, biking, skiing, whatever. And when I was younger, it's important that you say that you came here for the skiing, because that's what we were. We're a ski resort. Nobody hardly came here in the summertime anyway, but skiing was what we did. And when we weren't skiing in the summer, we were dreaming about it, or thinking about it, or talking about it. You're absolutely right. And I'm going to pause for 1 second here. Did I stop? I'm going to share one more anecdote before I get too carried away. But I had a really important business partner a long, long time ago, and he reminded me about how critical it was to stay focused and stay grounded and remember that we live in a resort. And he used to tell me, he's like, every single person that you bump into on the street, you want to make a friend for life out of them. He said, I don't care if they're coming into our store, if they just want directions to the grocery store. Make sure that they walk away from you glad that they bumped into you. And I'll tell you what, that one little bit of advice has stuck with me for so long. And I remember trying to get, back when I had a stable of 20 fishing guides, and I would tell those guys all the time, and it can be, as you know, it can be really, really hard work. You get into the dog days of the summer, it's hot, the fish aren't biting, and you got to rely on yourself to take care and entertain these people and keep it a worthwhile, educational, and fun experience. And I would tell these guys, make sure that you make friends for life out of that person. And it's not just about going out there and catching as many fish as you possibly can, but you never know what's going to happen down the road. And that person is going to talk to his brother or his sister or his friend. And that's what we depend on. We depend on making friends for life out of people, and that's just something that's resonated with me forever. And I see that's one of the ways that you guys have built your cultures in your stores. Tell me a little bit about how you built your teams and how you train your people to interact with people on a day in, day out basis.
We've been really fortunate, like a lot of our team has been with us for many years, and it's to treat others as you would want to be treated, basically. You are an ambassador, not just of Meridian, but of Aspen. and it is your job to make people come in the store, feel welcome, not just into the store, but into the town. And you can be sort of a concierge to some degree. Don't ask them, oh, what do you want? How are you here? Like, what can I help you? It's more about, okay, what brings you into town and where are you from? And
right.
Oh my gosh, go Blackhawks, and really engaging on a level that creates a relationship instead of a transaction. I could do transactions all day long. I could do batteries and sell a Rolex every day, but then people can go to the next store and the next store and the next store. You want to be memorable. You want to become friends with people and have a relationship with people. And so they look forward to coming back and seeing you. And our team is tremendous at doing that and working with people because they're like-minded. And we're very careful when we hire them that they are like-minded. But the biggest compliment to me is when someone comes in and says, we just landed, you're the first stop. I'm like, yes.
And Jonathan, you asked about our team. I mean, it's important for us to build a community at work as well, a smaller community in our workplace that fits in and integrates with our larger community. I mean, work in a place like this, from being, you actually had family here. A lot of us never had any family here. Work needs to feel like your family to a certain degree, a little bit of your support, and it needs to feel like a mini community within the bigger community. And I think that's why people stay with us for a long time.
Well, that's culture, That's one of the unique things about small towns like Aspen. It's tight knit, And we have river culture, we have ski culture, we have little kid sports culture. I can remember really feeling like I made it in town when I coached my first team. When I coached one of my kids in baseball or hockey or whatever. And I coached in Aspen junior hockey before I even had kids. And then I just kind of felt like a hired hand. I felt like I was part of something meaningful when I got to coach and I got to do something in my community, which is a perfect segue into what I think is one of the more meaningful things that I've ever seen any retailer, any business owner do, is when you guys reached out to the community and said, let's do something about all of our restaurant friends who are struggling through the pandemic. I want to hear about what inspired that. I want to hear about, I'm sure that it still is, I'm moved, touched, and inspired every time I think of it. It has to be something that you guys can really look back and be proud of.
It is, and thanks for mentioning. It really resonated. It was a dark time in Aspen. It felt really, really dark. There was no one here visiting. The restaurants were closed. The town was closed because of COVID, because of the virus. And I remember specifically Robin and I brushing our teeth, thinking, this is terrible. This does not feel right. There has to be something that we can do to try to turn the tide on this in any small way we can. So we sort of very collaboratively came up with this idea. Our clients aren't here. Everyone's out of town. There's locals here. Stores aren't open. Restaurants are barely hanging on. Everyone has bills to pay. Is there anything we can do? So we came up with this idea to create a gift certificate match program and we sent this idea out just to our client list, where the idea was, look, buy a gift certificate from a local restaurant, anyone you want, and we'll match it up to $200 as Meridian. That was the basis of the idea. And I kind of said to Robin, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think anybody would want to do it? We just really had this really, back and forth about it. And we're like, well, only we'll know if it's going to fly or if anyone will do it is if we send an email out. So we sent out an email to our client list, and I can't tell you what happened. It absolutely blew up. People turned the email into a text message. We got, Robin said, hey, someone just sent me this text message about the program. And I said, it's not a text message. We sent an email out. People turned it into every different format they could and sent it to everyone they knew that ever came to Aspen, right? So all of a sudden, we had to bring our team into work, although we were closed, to answer phones and help process the calls. A beautiful thing is, and look,
I'm crying. It's a great story. I'm such a sap. Every one of these talks that I do with friends, at least one time I cry. And I knew there was nothing I could do to prepare myself for that question and that answer. So you guys started this thing to help the restaurants, and it morphed into something far greater. Well, I think it was an absolute grand slam. I'm going to get all teary-eyed again. And I was dreading the opportunity to talk about this with you guys, and I was looking forward to it. But talk a little bit more about what you guys are doing. I know, Robin, you've been involved with Theater Aspen, and I know you're a Rotarian. Back when I was a Rotarian, it was Victorian times, and they made women come in the premise from the rear door. I can't believe Rotary has loosened up that much. Tell me a little bit more about your involvement with those organizations. Okay, well, you guys win the award because you got me to cry twice now. I got a soft spot. I got to be honest with you. For people that give back, it's meaningful, and it really is what makes this town work. Everybody thinks that we're this bougie town that caters to the rich and famous, and yeah, we are. But the people who run the town are people like you guys. It's a small town. It's close knit, and we've got really, really unique culture, and it's guys like you that are making it happen. And as far as that's concerned, tell everybody what your address is. Tell them how to find you, because I'm going to conclude this little talk with some propping up of your stores and what your hours are and what to look for. Well, that's cool. And now I'm going to hopefully catch you guys a little bit off guard and hit you with a couple of questions that you're not ready for. If, Kenny, you had the opportunity or the challenge of going on national TV tomorrow and you had to do an air guitar solo, what song would it be from what band? All right, I like it. And you, Robin, okay, if you had to go on national TV and pick a karaoke song to perform in front of the whole world, what song would it be? All right. And with that, we can conclude. Guys, thank you so much for all your time today. Much love and peace to you. I love you guys. God bless.